government of fixed a 3% in the basic salary and a 4% increase in the national minimum wage. Russia denounced the indiscriminate shelling of residential areas in Ukraine. The economic crisis experienced in Europe as a result of the sanctions against Russia had an impact on the trade in Spain, and tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs in the last month in the country. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Diego Martin, from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. The government of Bolivia fixed a 3% increase in the basic salary and a 4% increase in the national minimum wage. The announcement was made by President Luis Arce after 4 hours of discussion with the leadership of the Bolivian Central Labor Union on Wednesday evening. In addition, the Bolivian head of state emphasized that the executive is willing to continue working together with workers' unions to get the country's economy back on track. The executive secretary of the country's highest trade union organization, Juan Carlos Guarachi, highlighted in a press conference the commitment of the administration to guarantee the political stability of the country.
In the first place, it has been agreed that the increase of the basic salary for this 2022 will be over 3%, and the increase of the national minimum wage will be 4%. We know perfectly well that there is still a lot to be done, and we are willing to continue working in this regard. Workers, as well as this institution, are always going to work together for the common good of people. Today, this meeting that we have held is very important, and these are the political decisions that our President, Luis Arce Catacora, has taken. Our President is committed to the workers, and particularly, as you know, he is a cobista, and that means that is part of our Bolivian Central Workers Union.
Authorities presented on Wednesday the winter 2022 interinstitutional plan for the mitigation of the impact of hurricanes, floods, landslides, and mine collapses in the Central American country. The plan was presented at a press conference by Brigadier General Rogelio Flores, Director of the Civil Defense, who detailed that in the country there are 4,328 critical points sensitive to the occurrence of hurricanes, which put at risk the lives of more than 4 million people. The initiative was directed by President Daniel Ortega to contribute to the protection of communities in vulnerable conditions, mainly those living in the Caribbean coast, where in 2020, Hurricanes Eta and Iota categories 4 and 5 in the Saffir-Simpson scale hit communities located there.
The scope of this plan is to contribute to the safety of life and property, families and communities in vulnerable exposure. We also set as a goal in this plan the surveillance and monitoring of climatic elements in coordination with SINAPRED's management, with municipal authorities and community leaders, to develop processes of strengthening local and institutional capacities in a permanent manner to execute mitigation projects and eliminate critical points and risk areas.
In this case, the Director of Civil Defense of the Nicaraguan Army, Rogelio Flores, detailed the different risk scenarios that may occur in the country based on the experience of natural disasters that have occurred in the past.
When a climatic event occurs, either a sudden or a progressive one, and this happens mainly with the overflowing of rivers and the three major scenarios that we have and that we have conceived, meaning in case of heavy rains, overflowing of rivers, landslides, sinking of mines, and hurricanes, when they impact directly on the national territory.
And in Colombia, a judge ruled that Álvaro Uribe must go to trial for the crimes of bribery of witnesses and procedural fraud. This decision gives the green light to the trial against the former president and rejects the request made by the Attorney General's office, which in 2021 argued that there was no evidence against the Democratic Central leader, a decision that was dismissed by Judge Carmen Elena Ortiz Raza. The process for alleged witness tampering against the former president began more than 4 years ago, when the Supreme Court of Justice refrained from investigating Senator Ivan Cepeda, who was denounced by Uribe for allegedly offering benefits in prison in exchange for testimonies that implicated the former head of state in criminal conduct. We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again. Hi, and welcome back to From the South. In Cuba, the process of accountability of the courts and the justice system to the people continues. The government employees who are members of the Cuban judiciary comply with the constitutional requirement to do a report on their performance to the people and meet with different sectors of society for this purpose. Magistrates and other members of the court gave account before organizations, people councils, and workplaces at the invitation of deputies while responding to any concerns that arose. In one of the meetings held in the capital, the president of the People's Provincial Court of Havana, Johannier Sierra Infante, stressed the importance of the process.
And that is what it's all about, to explain to the people the result of the work of the judges, to explain to the people what we judges have dedicated ourselves to in these 5 years. What is the commitment, what is the service, and what is the will we have, which is to deal out justice on your behalf.
Uber Fernandez Gonzalez, deputy of the National Assembly, highlighted the mechanism as an achievement of the Cuban Revolution.
This is an expression of people's power, an institution giving information, giving account to the people who have the power by mandate of the Constitution, which is also a trial of the revolution, and we seldom realize that, because it is a right that we have, but it is also one we have to defend.
And on Wednesday, gang fighting in Haiti threatens to isolate the capital, Port-au-Prince. Haiti's civil protection warned that gang fights in the northern part of Port-au-Prince have caused hundreds of civilians to abandon their homes and could isolate the city, whose southern part is controlled by armed groups. Access to the north of the country by National Routes 1 and 3 is compromised, which could lead to the isolation of all the departments of the capital, as National Route 2 connecting with the south remains blocked due to insecurity, as reported by a state agency. On the other hand, the report warns that between Sunday, April the 24th and Tuesday the 26th, at least 20 civilians were shot, including a family of 8 with 3 children. In Honduras, officials seek solutions to political campaigns being undermined by organized crime.
Preventing from getting into public offices people, criminals, who are part of the organized crime. At this moment, Honduras still has organized criminal people inside the government structure, and we have to eliminate that. In fact, this is why the nominating board is so important. That will determine who will be the 15 members of the Supreme Court of Justice.
Appointing honest magistrates, appointing a prosecutor committed to the nation, and of course providing sufficient resources to the political unit. That cleans up, and the parties are in the duty to make a cleanup, because we cannot continue with rotten apples in all the organizations of the state.
Russia denounced the indiscriminate shelling of residential areas in Ukraine. According to Defense Minister spokesman General Igor Konashenkov, the residential districts of central Kherson were attacked on April 27th with Tachka-U tactical ballistic missile systems and with multiple rocket launchers. Konashenkov detailed that the country's anti-aircraft defense repelled the attack, shooting down 12 rocket launcher projectiles and 2 missiles. The spokesman said that on Thursday, the Russian anti-aircraft system intercepted again another Tachka-U missile fired by Ukrainian troops towards Izym in the province of Kharkiv, aimed at a community hospital currently managed by Russian doctors. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday in a meeting with members of the Legislative Council of the country that in case of a foreign intervention in the Ukrainian conflict, the response will be as fast as lightning.
If someone attempts to intervene in the current conflict from the outside, creating unacceptable strategic threats to us, they should know that our response will be as fast as aligning itself.
Moreover, the Russian head of state said that he has the necessary tools to retaliate any interference from a third country.
We have all the tools necessary, not to brag, but these are tools no one else has. We will use them, if necessary, and I want everyone to know that fact.
The United States House of Representatives passed a bill urging the executive to sell the yachts seized to Russian nationals. The bill, which passed on Wednesday, urges President Joe Biden to sell the assets of Russian nationals to finance military aid to Ukraine. Although the legislation is non-binding, having passed with 417 votes in favor and 8 against, reflects the desire of the lower house for the executive to take such action. Meanwhile, early attempts to enact the bill were thwarted after lawmakers on the Foreign Affairs Committee and lawyers for the U.S. Civil Liberties Union raised concerns that the legislation is contrary to legal protections for individuals. Taking into account all these facts, Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed on Wednesday that his country's response to strategic threats from the outside will be immediate and quick.
Someone intervenes in any events from outside or creates strategic threats unacceptable to us, they should know that our response to counterstrikes will be immediate and quick. We have all the instruments that no one could brag about. We will not brag about it. Love for the homeland is the key foundation of the statehood and the most important value for our society, which can be visible at crucial moments for the country. Such a solidarity among people means a lot. It guarantees that Russia will decently respond to the most difficult challenges and threats, will pass through all the challenges. It has always been the case, so shall it be now.
We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi, and welcome back. The economic crisis experienced in Europe as a result of the sanctions against Russia had an impact on the employment rate in Spain as tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs in last month. The decline in employment is focused on temporary jobs in manufacturing and services and is higher among women. The Spanish National Statistics Institute recorded 70,000 more unemployed people in March than in January, an increase of 2.3%. At the same time, the report stated that in the last month, around 100,000 jobs were lost. In all, the number of unemployed people in Spain reached more than 3 million by the end of March, similar numbers to those recorded during the worst moments of the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka was paralyzed on Thursday by a general strike called by 100 unions to demand the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. More than 100 unions, including some affiliated with the ruling Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Party, called for a day-long strike on Thursday. Rajapaksa is accused of being responsible for the worst economic crisis in the country since independence in 1948. The government also announced on April 12th that it would stop paying its $51 billion foreign debt and open negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. In China, health authorities are carrying out massive COVID-19 tests for the fourth consecutive day in Beijing, while some districts continue under lockdown. Amid a new coronavirus outbreak caused by the Omicron variant, Beijing residents flocked to testing centers set up in the city. Beijing reported on Thursday 50 new infections, including some detected among the nearly 20 million sample studies in the first round of mass testings. Since April the 22nd, authorities have reported more than 160 cases in Beijing, more than half in Chaoyang, its most populous district known for its nightlife, shopping malls, and embassies.
I am not worried. If I were worried, I wouldn't go out to play basketball. If we observe all prevention measures, I think Beijing will do just fine. Beijing being the capital city, the situation would not be allowed to worsen.
In South Africa, there is a new wave of COVID-19, according to the Center for Epidemic Response and Innovation. The number of new infections in the last 24 hours is still up compared to the last few days, with more than 5,000 cases and 15 deaths, according to the National Institute of Communicable Diseases. Health Minister Joe Fala already expressed his concern last week. The last wave of the disease resulted in greater transmission of the virus, but fewer severe cases. South Africa, where less than 45% of the adult population is fully vaccinated, recorded more than 3.7 million cases and 100,350 deaths in total. In Ghana, the push towards community vaccination increased at a time when the country still faces the threat of rising infections as well as vaccine hesitancy. The government is pushing to inoculate around 23 million out of a total of 31 million people and prepares a new strategy to reach the goal. The community vaccinator, Doretta Connie, said that the house-to-house vaccination is more effective because most people, when they arrive at the facilities, must pass through long queues and they usually don't get the vaccination on time. Ghana registered over 160,000 cases of COVID-19 at least 1,445 so far. According to numbers presented on Wednesday by the World Health Organization and UNICEF, during the first 2 months of 2022, about 17,338 cases of measles were reported worldwide. Given this rapid increase in the disease and the high infection capacity of measles, the two agencies warned that cases tend to appear quickly when vaccination levels decrease. The fall was caused mainly by three factors: alterations due to the pandemic, increasing inequalities in access to vaccines, and the diversion of resources. At the same time, the two agencies expressed concern that this situation might not become the prelude to other outbreaks that do not spread so quickly. An immense layer of foam coming out from a polluted river reached the doors of the homes of the locals of Mosquera, a town 22 kilometers from the Colombian capital, Bogotá. Residents are increasingly distressed by this phenomenon, which, although not new, has increased in the rainy season. It has a foul smell, and the winds are quickly dispersing the contaminated foam to the neighborhood of Los Puentes, located on the riverbank. The environmental authority in the area said through its press office that the contaminated foam is increasing due to the number of detergents being poured into the rivers, in addition to the recent rains. Since 2020, a wastewater treatment plant has been in operation in Mosquera, which, according to the local, has done a poor waste management since its creation. New Delhi, the capital of India, is experiencing an extreme heat wave that worsened on Wednesday with a fire that began at a giant garbage dump north of the city. Firefighters battled flames Wednesday to try to extinguish a blaze at the massive Balswa landfill in northern New Delhi, the world's most polluted city. The landfill, which is as tall as a 17-story building and occupies an area of more than 50 soccer fields, was supposed to have been closed a decade ago, but more than 2,300 tons of garbage are still dumped there every day. Moreover, temperatures in New Delhi are expected to be around 40 degrees Celsius until Sunday, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi warned that more fires could occur throughout the country due to the heat wave. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I am Dio Martin. Thank you for watching.